Welcome back. Now, in preparation for the 2023 African Cup of Nations for Ivory Coast 2023, we have, of course, released provisional list as teams in Africa are preparing so hard for the World Cup qualifiers and also the African Cup of Nations for 2023. Now, we'll dwell in South Africa. The Bafana coach, Hugo Broos, did release provisional squad list for today for the preliminary rounds for the international friendlies against Guinea and France in Europe later this month. Now, the senior men's national team faced Guinea in Belgium on 25th of March and France in Lille 4 days later, 29th of March 2022. The team will assemble on a day before departure and then travel to Paris on Monday, 25th of March, 21st of March. Now, the final list will be revealed on March 14, this after this provisional list. Now, prior to the European trip that will help the national team prepare for the 2023 African Cup of Nations qualifiers. But the look of things seems Broos has named a lot of players currently featuring for their clubs at the CAF Interclub competitions. Now, that's where the big surprise is. Now, to give clarity to this and help us do talk about this provisional squad, we've got South African football commentator and the likes of Malatsi to give us clarity on this. Thank you so much, Soli, for joining. We do appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to be back on your show.
And it's a pleasure to have you too to discuss sport. But here we're talking about this provisional squad list by the coach of Bafana. Now, of course, in that list, I could see, now having a research on that list, that 3 players at the age of 30 and above. But we've got 11 players around the age of 25 and below. But looking at this list, I can see that a lot of players are from the South African Premier League. A lot of them, Kaizer Chiefs AmaZulu. We've got Mamelodi Sundowns players over there, and they are from the domestic league. We've got only one player from USA. Of course, that's the only foreign-based player who has been mentioned in the list. But at this time, do you think Hugo Broos is heading towards the right direction, calling up only domestic players for this provisional squad?
Look, it's consistent with all the previous selections that he has made. I think from the onset when he came on, he was very clear about building a new team consisting of fresh blood, hungry players in their early and mid-20s so that he can build a team for the future. And if you look at that list, he did also emphasize that we have been thin of quality, particularly up front in previous games. And that is why you see that he has requested for Westerlo in Belgium. He's a former South African under-20, former South African under-23 international. He hasn't had a consistent run and stayed for a long time at any of his clubs in Europe. But at his current club, I saw that the stats indicate that he has had 5 goals and 4 assists. So he'll be able to help in there. And we also have Bongukuhle Hlongwane, who was playing for Maritzburg United and recently went to Minnesota in the US. He's been one of those players that Hugo Broos has always selected from his team. So there's a degree of consistency in there. And he has also rewarded people who have been on form, like Fagri Lakay. Fagri Lakay was with Cape Town City up until over a month ago when he went to Egypt to join Pyramids, and he has already scored 2 goals in there. The reality is that when you look in terms of the front line, you've got the current South African high-scoring player, because the leading goal scorer in the PSL is Peter Shalilwile from Namibia, but the second-placed person there is Victor Letswalo, who had a very good COSAFA tournament towards the end of last year, and as a result has kept his place in the squad. But overall, when you look also at the defense, it is very thin of experience. So that is my only worry in there, because if you look at the defense, the most senior player there is Siyanda Kulu, who was playing in Israel. He has been unattached for the last couple of weeks because he terminated his contract there. Roshan Diruk has been a pivotal cog of that Bafana Central defense. But I'm also excited about the inclusion of the right back from Mamelodi Sundowns, Khuliso Mudau. It will probably be his first call-up to camp, and he has had a very good run with Mamelodi Sundowns and also on the CAF Champions League. And as you said earlier, there is a right mixture of players who are playing in the Interclub Continental tournament, particularly with players from Amazulu, such as Velimo try in goals, and also players from Cape Town City.
All right, Soli. I'm sorry to cut you, but because of time, Percy Tau from Al Ahly seems to be the only casualty for that snub, Hugo Broos, snubbing him from making that provisional squad. Do you think it was intentional? Because talking about players in the domestic league, this lot plies is straight in Egypt. Of course, for Al Ahly there, and he has been very wonderful coming up from the injury spell, coming back to action for Al Ahly, and he's even playing right now against Pyramid FC as we speak. Do you think it's intentional coming from Hugo Broos to ignore this striker?
Look, it's a very interesting thing because initially in the list I thought Percy Tau was there, but given that it's a preliminary list, I'm hoping that his approach is to assess whether in the coming 2 weeks Tau would have recovered his form, because also bear in mind that Percy Tau had a hamstring niggle, and he just returned to action just over last week when Al Ahly were playing Mamelodi Sundowns, and I see in their most recent game against Pyramid he also played. So maybe he's making sure that by the time he's back, he's fully fit and medically clear, because a half-fit Percy Tau is still a strong weapon for Bafana than any of the attacking forces that we have. So I'm hoping that by the time the team departs, Percy Tau will be on that flight, because he's one of the senior leaders in that team. He's someone who lifts the mood in camp.
Okay, the coach of the side, just quickly, he says victory is not the main goal here in this international friendly against Guinea and France. Do you think he should be saying that at this time? Now, the Federation is spending a lot for this international friendly in order to organize this international friendly. But since he knows already that these players he has put in for the two friendlies might not really turn out the results.
Yeah, it's always a fascinating concept when coaches believe that the result is not the most important element of the game. But I think, what Hugo Broos has brought is an element of pragmatism and reality in the fact that this is a developing team. And perhaps he's also using it to tune up his players so that they have a point to prove to the coach, because a highly motivated team can deliver. But I think, if I'm a South African football fan and I'm looking at that squad and the caliber of the French team, to expect a victory would be highly ambitious, but we still expect the national team to be competitive, So I think he's trying to manage expectations by under-promising so that whatever the outcome would be, he would have over-delivered.
Thank you so very much, Soli Malatsi.